became even more popular after it was banned.
So he wanted to free ballet of storylines, basically, of all storylines, and to just fully concentrate on choreography and on the movement of the human body.
Leads you through this transformation between confinement and the process of liberation.
To maybe convince myself if maybe I want to explore and go and dance, no. But
hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of What's on Vienna, your immersive guide into sometimes overwhelming world of classical music and arts events in the city.
So, we have now officially entered what me and I think a lot of other people would consider the most unpleasant part of the year, although the year has just started, which is the endless month of January. And especially this year, we're particularly lucky to have an extremely cold and snowy and gray and dark month. So, historically, I think January was even more unpleasant in the city, in Vienna. So people had one solution how to cheer themselves up. I'm joking, of course, but this is now officially the beginning of the ball season. All this text was leading to this, and I think this is a fantastic way to get away from the seasonal blues and try to stay in a festive kind of Christmassy atmosphere, New Year's atmosphere, is to go to balls. It's of course not a secret that Vienna is a very conservative old school city, so if you want to relive life from 19th century, this is probably the best place on earth that you can do that. But Viennese balls as a concept are very interesting because they are still gaining popularity all over the world, right? By this I mean that they are being exported as a thing. You can have like Viennese balls all over the planet, pretty much from Sydney to New York City. People are doing Viennese balls. And then, of course, there are two biggest balls in Vienna during the whole season. One of them being the Opera Ball, and another one, the ball hosted by the Vienna Philharmonic, by the orchestra, in the Musikverein building. There are many other balls. I would say even countless balls from, I don't know, the, what are they called? The sugar makers, I don't know what they're called, konditorei, right? The what is it called, pastry chef balls. Oh my god, it's not my day today. To I don't know, just anything imaginable has a ball. Hundreds, right? Scientists, I don't know, like atomic agency. Everyone has a ball in Vienna, but not every ball is equally prestigious, so to speak. So I believe that we concentrated in our previous season on the Opera Ball, which is probably the most famous ball. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about the Vienna Philharmonic Ball. To me, the exciting part of the Vienna Philharmonic Ball is that the building itself of the Musikverein, of the concert hall conglomeration, transforms into a completely different venue designated for dancing. And you have, of course, several halls in Musikverein, and all of them have different setups, different styles of music for different atmosphere, ambience of dancing. Usually when you go to the balls, you have the more classical, uptight part of it, which is really 19th century, with the quadrilles and kids and debutantes who actually go to dance schools for years and years and prepare for this, and are like very old school and sophisticated. But then as the hours go by and people actually want to dance, no offense to the, classical ballroom dancers, then you get actually also the Latin bands and the jazzier bands and the more contemporary style of dancing. So it's just a huge dance party. The Vienna Philharmonic Ball in Musikverein was first opened in 1924, so it's already pretty long as a tradition. And the composer who wrote the fanfare, or the opening melody for the ball, was none other than our dear and beloved Richard Strauss. And since then, almost every year, the ball will open with his fanfare. There was an exception when, for the 80th anniversary of the ball, another fantastic composer whom I adore, Mr. John Williams, composed another fanfare. And then, of course, it's just a beautiful sequence and a night of celebration, and the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra is playing. I don't know if I'm telling this very excitedly. This is a very niche thing, but I'm every time surprised by how many people actually enjoy ballroom dancing, how many people enjoy wearing gowns and, the white formal attire for the men, you know, the tuxedos, the whole thing. And if you are into that kind of thing, of course the balls are going to be something that's attractive and interesting. And the most sophisticated of the balls, like I said, are the Vienna Philharmonic ball and the opera ball. And why not go there? Tickets are surprisingly not as expensive as you might think. The problem with them is that they are selling out very quickly, but they are very like imaginable normal amount. You can also reserve tables and have, you know, the whole thing. But if you're really looking to go with company and want a table, then it's, you know, something you have to think about ahead of time. And it's always held on it's a little bit like Thanksgiving, but completely not like Thanksgiving. It's on the second to the last Thursday of January. No, it's like Thursday at the end of the month, but wrong month, wrong Thursday. And it's a huge production because it involves about 2,500 guests. And there are 1,000 people who are designated as participants. So like the ones who are doing the official part of dancing, the musicians, and I guess the rest of the service people. So it's a huge production. And I don't know. I am personally, I don't know if you got this from the way I was telling about it, not into balls. Not into balls. So this is really not my scene, but I still chose to talk about it to maybe convince myself if maybe I want to explore and go and dance. No. But if it's something for you, then why not? Right?
Yeah. Also, I saw they introduced the new kind of tickets for this year because usually the ballroom becomes a bit more empty around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. So they want to have this other category of tickets for people who want to join after the midnight and stay until 7. Yeah. So it's kind of innovation in
Innovation, yeah. But tickets are really surprisingly affordable. I mean, they're not like 20 euros, but I thought they would be much more painful. But yeah, and I guess these ones are even cheaper. Yeah. That's all I had to say.
Also, in the second half of January, you can catch the final performance of the opera by Jules Massenet, Manon. The opera based on the novel by Prévost, written in 1731, a scandalous novel. Other 5 operas are written based on this same piece, and one of the more famous one is by Puccini. So the work was very, the literary work was very famous at the time and became even more popular after it was banned. And it is the most reprinted novel in the history of French literature. Also, it was the first time in France when one of the main characters was the heroine who is a commoner. So the work depicts a lot of like this low social class activities, scandalous for the time interaction between the social classes. As well, something else was very unusual is to make money a major topic of the book. So there are a lot of numbers, and it was also kind of scandalous for that time. Massenet wrote it in 1883. He was working on it in his country house close to Paris, but as well in the house where Prévost lived in The Hague, which is a very nice connection. And by the way, Puccini wrote his opera 10 years later than Massenet, Manon Lescaut. And his publisher, Ricordi, was very much against it because of the existing opera by Massenet. But Puccini didn't have a problem with that. He said that such a character can have many works based on it, and he believes in this heroine. And maybe Massenet, as a Frenchman, would fill the character with how did he say, with powder and minuets, and I will fill it with a desperate passion. Yeah, so a lot of stereotypes in one quote, which I might have misquoted.
That's a very fancy offense. Powder and minuets. Okay.
Of course, you can't fill powder and minuets when you listen to the Massenet interpretation, but the reading of the character is very different, obviously, by these two composers. And so Massenet was a leading opera composer of his time, and he also received the Prix de Rome, the one that I think
we keep bringing us.
Yeah. You were talking in regard to Gounod, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, so Gounod received it as well, Bizet, Berlioz, and many others. So this prize is a kind of a stipend scholarship for a residency of from 3 to 5 years for French artists to live in Rome, and it was originated in 1663.
That's crazy.
Yeah, at first just for sculpture and painting. Then 70 years later, it was introduced in the category for architectures.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1803, for the first time, music was presented and you can participate. And 1 year later, engraving. And that's all the categories that existed. So there are many names if you read through the list, and a lot of them are really not known today, not so much known. A lot of famous names, but also there were quite a few composers or visual artists who didn't receive the prize but attended the competition, like Manet, Degas, Ravel. Ravel entered 5 times and
didn't take no for an answer.
So it's very interesting prize, and Massenet also received it as a big recognition, of course. And although he was very famous and he had this status through his life, what is interesting that one of his other operas, Werther, was rejected by the director of the Opéra Comique in Paris, and it was premiered in Vienna. It was rejected because it was, according to the director, too serious, too sad and tragic, but you can't scare the Viennese audience with tragedy, I guess.
We are really in a great mood today. The weather is really having its effect on us.
Yeah, and I don't know the singer who is singing the Manon. I haven't heard her, but the second main character is going to be sung by Benjamin Bernheim, wonderful tenor. I heard him last time in La Bohème, and it was this wonderful moment. I love it when it happens. It's a bit silly. Then even if an artist or musician or a singer is generally known, but you personally didn't discover him or her yet, and then you go to the performance and you see that it's a very good level and you enjoy the beauty, and then few notes happen, or one place, literally it might be 15 seconds or 10 seconds, and then it's just this magic happens, and it's some other dimension opens in your experience, and this is just this, okay, this is high artistry. In this moment I had with him singing La Bohème, so I'm sure it will be wonderful.
And as I keep complaining over episodes, that happens very, very rarely.
Yes, exactly. So, and we heard very good reviews, right?
Yes, the reviews are excellent. Reviews also from personal friends, personal connections. The even more trusted reviews are even better. Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah. So
wonderful. Fun fact that is maybe not a fun fact or interesting for anyone, but for some reason the name Manon was quite popular in Georgia in certain parts of the country and in certain age, demographic. A lot of women were called Manon.
But because of the...
I don't really know, probably, but this is a particular name to really want to call your child Manon. It's a real big commitment. Yeah, and not to the minuets and powder. I really loved that quote, as you can sense.
It's very interesting how this character was interpreted through the time, how it changed, and the attention to many things, different perspective. It's very interesting.
Well, that's what makes the work timeless. I'm talking in cliches today.
And the production that you can see now in Vienna Opera House is, I think it was from 2007. So it's shown through the perspective of the time period 1930s. So the aesthetic of 1930s. Kind of.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will take over. Speaking of 1930s, has nothing to do, a little bit to do with the 1930s. But the next topic, we will stay also at the opera building, but we will go to ballet world, which lately we've been diving more and more. Now, why do I say lately diving more and more? Of course, we adore ballet. At least I do. I don't know why I speak for both of us. Who doesn't like ballet?
Sure, no, of course.
But Vienna State Opera has been famous for having very weak ballet department, or let's say it was quite far off from the level of the vocal part of it. But in the recent years, they're really doing incredible work to, even out the level and to bring the ballet to the level that is kind of expected of a very big house. And I think they've been very successful, at least in my not super competent opinion, because in ballet, I'm not really the most competent of the people. Now, the ballet I want to talk about is yet another legendary work that is, of course, very, very known. And this is the ballet Jules by George Balanchine. Now, George Balanchine is a very beloved figure for all Georgians because he is of Georgian heritage, I guess. Georgian, I can say, not just Georgian heritage. And he happens to come from a family which is incredibly important for all Georgian musicians, for people educated in Georgia, and their last name is the Balanchine family. His father is one of the founding fathers of the academic classical music in Georgia, an absolutely legendary composer and author of the first Georgian opera, some of the first Georgian art songs, one of the big collectors of the folk music, one of the founders of important folk vocal ensembles, and so on. So complete legend, one of those people you learn about in the books. Now, the son or the brother of the choreographer is also an incredibly famous composer. And those two have remained in Georgia and have dedicated their life to Georgian music. And then one of the sons, or the Dash brother, he actually immigrated in the 30s, hence the connection to the 30s, to America, and became the founding father of the American ballet. And he also changed his name from Balanchine to Balanchine, although this ending really doesn't bring much of a difference in the length of the last names. Still, this is the name that he's known by, and he is an absolute legend in the contemporary, it's not very contemporary anymore, in 20th century ballet scene. And he is one of the founding fathers of the American ballet, of the so-called neoclassical ballet. And his style was a mix of thousands of different influences. Primarily, he was educated in St. Petersburg as a ballet dancer. So he had very rigid, very classical, high-class, training. Then his second degree in higher education comes from St. Petersburg Conservatory, where he actually studied, theory and composition and all those things. So he is a very profoundly educated musician.
But firstly, because of his family, right?
I'm sure he had because of his family, of course. So he really knew music, like on a very deep level, also very intellectually, absorbed level, so to speak. And then when he moved to America, he also got introduced to African dancing and the style of African dance, which was very freeing, of course, different rhythm, different plasticity, different movements. So this whole combination of everything, the result of it is actually his style. One of his other big contributions is when he moved to the US, he realized that you also have to have this school where you would train the children and then teenagers to become the professional ballet dancers. So he also founded one of those. So he's an incredibly important person for American choreographic scene. And the ballet of his that will be performed in Vienna is one of my favorite ballets, and it's called the Jules. Jules is a ballet which, according to him, has nothing to do with jewelry. The only connection to Jules that this ballet has is that the dancers are wearing costumes that are imitating the jewels. And it comes in 3 absolutely independent parts from each other. Those are wonderful stones for those into jewelry: emeralds, rubies, diamonds. Each of the ballets is quite short. They're like give or take half an hour. There is no storyline. They are completely disconnected from each other. And the music that he uses is of fantastic composers. Let me just double check to make sure I don't make a mistake. Yeah, once again, Fauré with Pelléas and Mélisande, our work that we keep bringing and mentioning. Then there is Stravinsky, and then there is Tchaikovsky. And the costumes are so important to the piece that they have been praised, and I don't know, people dedicate works to them, and they have been also oftentimes displayed in museums and in different settings. And they're by the very famous costume maker Barbara Karinska. I'm reading, so I don't want to make a mistake. And she had made phenomenal costumes that the fabric imitates completely the jewels. And yet at the same time gives full freedom to the dancers. So the costumes are a huge part of the ballet. Now, this quote that I mentioned of Balanchine himself, that this has nothing to do with Jules, is part of his artistic concept, which is that he really did not want to have stories in his ballets that are reminiscent of the 19th century ballet, with swans, and this is one of his quotes also, and syrinxes and swans. So he wanted to free ballet of storylines, basically of all storylines, and to just fully concentrate on choreography and on the movement of the human body. And this is what he achieves, and this is one of his ballets that is quoted to be the first abstract ballet, and comes already from 1967. So I find this fascinating. And one more thing that is worth mentioning is that he really had an incredible career collaborating with genius people, without even a slightest exaggeration of the word, a lot of them being genius musicians. So he has worked with composers who were young and up and coming at the time, but everybody from Stravinsky to Kurt Weill, Ravel, Eric Satie, the list is just unbelievable, unbelievable. And he has also worked with young Picasso and young Henri Matisse. They were all had very nice, friendly working relationship. So he really understood the power of the collaboration, of the complexity of the ballet as a genre, and he really transported it beyond, beyond all borders. So of course, absolutely worth checking out the ballet. I'm sure it will be a delight and a pleasure to look. And maybe one interesting thing is that it's not clear who inspired whom, but the jewelry house, the Van Cleef & Arpels, and the owner, Mr. Van Cleef, is one of the names behind the inspiration to do the ballet. So either he told them, or like it came up in the conversation to do that, and he adored the costumes, and they were also displayed several times together with the jewels of Van Cleef & Arpels.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess like his musical understanding obviously contributed a lot to his work with composers.
Yes. And so he decided to go into music and the dance choreography form as opposed to the storyline, which was very revolutionary and shocking decision at the time.
Yeah. That's very exciting. Very nice. Yes, and I managed to catch a last performance of Fidelio, the only opera by Beethoven, at the Vienna State Opera House. There were a lot of discussions regarding this new production. The very fact that they had a new staging now following the legendary Otto Schenk's production that had been running for 55 years. And by the way, the premiere of this Otto Schenk's staging was conducted by Leonard Bernstein. And you can even find a recording, not in a good quality, unfortunately, from 1970 of the premiere. Very interesting. So there were a lot of expectations, but also because the production, this legendary production, was so much beloved by Viennese audience, they were not happy. I mean, the people were not happy about this change, despite 55 years and I think like hundreds of performances. So I deliberately didn't check the reviews before to kind of maintain the fresh perspective. And I wouldn't say that it was particularly extravagant, but there were a few things that that the critical responses were focusing on for obvious reasons. Mostly they were mixed, but leaning a bit to the negative, I would say. So the story is, of course, takes place in the prison. So the aesthetic is very like brutalistic and like grayish. Very general. You cannot really say where it is and what time it is. It could be from 1960 to our day, depending on the country. And of course, it was a conscious decision of the stage director to make it
vague,
keep it vague, and because it's like some particular circumstances could be limiting to this the beautiful universal quality of the work. So what was unusual, that the main two characters, the Leonore, who is pretending Fidelio, pretending a prisoner guard in order to get closer to her husband, who is a political prisoner, Florestan, they were portrayed with puppets, like big dolls like bigger than the person, actually, like quite a big size. So when for the first time when the characters introduced, it's like I was like, what? And I'm sure there was like a reaction of everybody.
That's creepy.
Yeah, because like Leonore Fidelio comes on stage, but there are a lot of people who portray this character. So there is this doll, which is like, it's not really human-like. It's really a doll. You can very clearly see it's a doll. Yeah. And who is led by two puppeteers, so two people in black behind that you can see they are moving, and they are moving.
It's heavy.
Yeah, I'm sure it's extremely heavy. And the singer is next to the doll. So the doll and the singer, Leonore, is they're wearing the same suit, but it's not really, I mean, it's not identical. It's some vague, also very vague. So when it was first introduced, you really get like, why? Like, why would you do that? But personally for me, after some time, quite fast, you kind of get the symbolic of it, and in your mind you accept the idea, and you don't see it anymore. Okay. You see the ideas that and the kind of the purpose of it, and you start to read the signs that I guess the stage director wanted to convey. So, but for a lot of people, it was, I think, like no, and then they said, "Oh no, we don't accept that." Auf Wiedersehen, yeah. So,
I'm sorry, can I just add that?
Sure.
I think a lot of people have doll phobias.
Doll phobias, yeah.
Doll phobias, that might be also part of it.
Might be.
Sorry, that was completely unnecessary.
So basically, if you would put it very simply, then the doll was a Fidelio, so it's kind of the external part of Leonore that has to play a role. And she, the singer herself, was Leonore inside her inner world and everything what's happening inside. So, for example, if in the dialogues or in the aria there were some phrases that Leonore was thinking, or maybe like reacting, she would be more expressive with her movement. But otherwise, the doll was doing the movement actually, and she was just. So it was a challenging setup, and in case of Florestan, the doll was kind of the visualization of this deprivation of freedom and isolation, because he was there for a long time in this underground space, and the moments when the spirit of Florestan and kind of hope, or maybe his like ideals were presented, it was the singer who was more expressive.
Got it.
So another main highlight of the production is, of course, the final scene, which was legendary in Otto Schenk's staging, because it was I think it's called drawbridge.
Okay.
Yeah, the one that goes like this. That at the final, when the scene of liberation happens, the drawbridge goes down and there's kind of an open space, and it was very emotional moment. In this staging, Nicolas Habian, he also he's opening the gates of the prison, and then there is a statue that we presume is Leonor's statue.
Okay.
I mean, I need to say it was emotional, but of course because of the music, obviously. But it was impressive because it's like huge size sculpture. Although the visualization I find a bit strange choice. Because like there were like those how they portray women in these like gamings where you have like fantastic worlds or like kind of kitschy, like in a Greek tunic and not really realistic, but not really Greek sculpture. I had this gaming association, which was a bit maybe not very suitable in this situation. And but regarding the musical part, so last time I was a bit, I had this moment of doubt, and so I didn't want to say, but it was Gustav Mahler who introduced this idea to performing Leonore Overture before the final stage. And and this is purely like Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra tradition that they keep. And usually if you see like German productions or even Harnoncourt's production in Zurich or in Vienna, he didn't do it. So it's not really like there are of course different ideas about that. I wouldn't say that I disliked the idea, Gustav Mahler's idea, and also Leonard Bernstein did it, and also in this case it was done like that because it's kind of the drama of the piece works very well, I find, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of internally to reflect on all the ideas introduced in the story before the final stage, and it kind of leads you through this transformation between confinement and the process of liberation. And this part was performed beautifully. The very beginning overture, I found it not so well, but in generally the music is just so amazing. I mean, this all these arias or ensembles like quartet, it has this beautiful, it's so gentle, it's full of love, it's so intimate, it's kind of it sounds like the best, finest examples of Beethoven's chamber music. And then you have this power and might of symphonic fragments where you have this full orchestra, the rage, the fire, and it's just this contrast makes it absolutely fantastic. And also the idealistic part of the work is quite incredible. But one thing I noticed that like living in our day, when the political imprisonment and the brutalism of it's not such an abstract idea, so people like either read about it like regularly happening in the world, or in some cases like it's really close to people, it's like friends and family. So having like it brings another level of resonance of the piece. And on one side it feels a bit naive, the piece itself, because in the end the liberation happens and all the villains are punished, so it's kind of it doesn't you feel the utopian element of it, but on the other side is of course it makes this piece extremely important in our days, and I wish there were more operas like this, because because the idealistic aspect of it, it's like so, it talks about subject that's so universal and very inspiring. The final is so inspiring. They also use this kind of how would you say that, not the trick, but when the statue is shown, they put light up in the hall, so kind of inviting the audience and being part of this process. So it's not clear if we will see the staging like next year, I'm sure we will see, because despite all the critical response, because it's also a financial aspect there to it, but we will see.
Well, on this uplifting note, we would like to, take our bow and leave for today. Please, as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. We adore hearing from you, and we will see you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you for watching and listening. Bye bye.